Well, happy Sunday. It is April 7th, and this is another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm your host, Troy Haines of Sky High and Fly Jump Camp fame, which is now Sky High and Fly Jump Lab. Um, Happy to announce that we are full go on our podcasts and our Zoom classes. Everything is proceeding along there. We have a new platform and a new website. Um, People are watching and listening and having a good time, getting ready for the Olympics here. And so again, we're here on a Sunday afternoon. My guest is going to be Isaiah of Instagram fame, Isaiah Holmes. He is a 7'3" high jumper. As usual, I know very little about him other than what I know from my Instagram account. So I see many shots of him in action. Looks like training and jumping the NC2A Division I outdoor track and field championships. Um, he looks like he was at the University of Miami, and we will find out more. I do remember asking him if he was going to train for the Olympic trials. And the answer that I got was yes. So we're looking forward to hearing about Isaiah and his exploits as soon as his downloading of the newest, what is it, the newest version of Zoom goes. So we'll be talking with him in just a few minutes. Until then, stay with us.
How's it going?
All right, Isaiah, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, no, hey, no problem at all. I appreciate your patience. Yeah, holy crap. So what's been going on, man? I was just telling everybody about you, the little that I was able to gather off my Instagram. So you and I have done very little talking. I figured we would just talk it out here and see what's going on with you. So I got a personal best of 7'3". Do I have that right?
That is correct.
Awesome. And you're at the University of Miami?
I train here, yeah. I graduated last year.
Graduated last year. Okay, awesome. So you're still able to use the facilities, which is, I know from personal experience, is a nice perk.
Very nice perk. Yeah, well, there was a little stint where I wasn't training there, and the fact that I'm back tells you how hard it is. It's You don't realize how hard it is to come by a high jump mat until you don't have a high
Right.
jump.
Yeah. Some of the things we take for granted, right? Both from high school to college, I think, is how nice it is to have a facility. Yeah, we've mentioned that a few times now. I just had Jeremy Fisher on a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if that one's come out yet, but I think I just finished producing it. And we were talking about the difficulties that young athletes like yourself face. I did, the same thing when I graduated at UCLA. I remember telling my mom that I was going to take a year off school and train for the trials. This was back in '87. So I graduated off the team in '86. '87, I just kind of wandered around campus in a daze because I was no longer on the track team. And even though I was still, working towards my degree and doing very little of that, I was really lost. And then yeah, I said, yeah, I'm not gonna not go back to school in '88 and train for the trials. And my mom was like, oh, great, where are you gonna live? I was like, what, you're kicking me out? So, yeah, she goes, yeah, since you're not finishing your degree, like, how is she supposed to know that I wasn't going to be a bum? So I go,
Yeah.
well, okay. So I ended up getting like 2 or 3 jobs and, training for a year and took my shot. But yeah, it was an eye opener. Both, I worked out with a coach at a junior college. Not the greatest facilities there at the time. It's since been upgraded, but I found out a lot about that year. Where to train, finding meets, a new experience, right? So that's different. So yeah, tell us about that. How's everything been going on the training for the trials front?
Yeah, like you just mentioned, it's very difficult with the facility part and affording the cost of living. A similar situation is in in LA that it's not cheap, and
Mm.
in Miami it's not any more cheaper. And just my luck when I moved from LA to Miami, excuse me, the cost of living calculator moved to Miami being the most expensive city from LA the year after I moved. So
Wow.
yeah, that was great. So
So
I
you were
did,
in LA.
yeah,
About that. So we got to walk back. So let's talk about you in high school. Where did you go to high school, and what kind of sports were you doing at that time?
yeah. So I went to Oakmont High School just outside of Sacramento in a town called Roseville. I did football, basketball, track my freshman and sophomore year, and then by my sophomore year, I dropped basketball to focus on football and track. And then by my senior year, I was jumping 7 feet and wanted to give high jump everything I had, and ended up doing really well in long jump as well. Got
Hmm.
me a scholarship to UCLA. Was there for 4 years, and then after those 4 years, COVID happened. My senior year, didn't get to compete that year. Use that opportunity to come out here to Miami. Spent my last 2 years of eligibility at the University of Miami, and now I'm here training post collegiately.
Awesome. So yeah, I didn't even know you're a fellow Bruin, which makes it even better. So
Oh, Bruins! That's why I was really excited when I saw that "Go Bruins" in the password for the
right.
meeting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, geez, I graduated in '86, and I tell the story all the time. I just missed being on the national championship teams back to back in '87, '88.
I
So,
was gonna say that's a great time to be on there.
oh man, it was a really great time. I was lucky in so many ways. Just coming out of high school in Long Beach, and I wasn't anything great in high school. I jumped 6'10". I didn't make 7 feet like yourself, and went to the state meet, and I ran into a host of great athletes there that I kept butting heads with over my career and losing to. The great Maurice Crumby, who was a three-time state champ from, geez, when was he rolling? My senior year was '82. I think that was his second. So he won state 3 years in a row. Then he went to University of Arizona. And another guy I bumped into at the state finals my senior year was John Morris, who went to Cal and jumped 7'6" or 7. Great jumper for many years. And so, they kind of squashed my senior year. I thought, yeah, I can go up to state and win this thing. I was like, no. As usual, excuse me, because you were part of that North crowd right up in Sacramento. So it always seemed like we never really have a clue what's going on down here, with what's
The
going on.
Southern section is a beast in its own. That's basically the state meet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's very similar to the SEC and the NCAA is how the Southern section is in California. If you
Yeah.
can if you can score at the sectional meet, you're probably going to score at state.
Yeah. Well, we had our share, but I tell you, when we went up against you guys, we never knew what was going on because we wouldn't see anybody from that area unless maybe if you guys came down to Arcadia,
Yeah, okay, for
maybe.
Mount Sac.
Yeah, maybe Mount Sac. So it's just a long way to travel, and there still really aren't that many, premier meets. If you want to go back east, maybe if you have those kind of connections, like I know now about those meets, but when I was in high school, I didn't know about Drake relays and
Yeah,
Penn and all those different things.
Mounts
And
Nationals.
yeah, big meets in Iowa. Now you got all these great national meets, the Nike Nationals, the New Balance, those things. So those are great, but those are kind of after it's all over, right? In the summer, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, I just had no idea how good those guys were. I did bump into Crumby my senior year. We used to have an indoor meet called the Sunkissed meet, which I don't know when it died. I'm glad it did. It was a terrible meet. It was indoors off, and they used to jump off wood. So we had
Oh,
our spikes, just on a wood takeoff, and man, it was awful. I remember going, what is the big deal with this? And they asked me to come I jumped 6'8" as a junior. So my senior year, after football, I'm out of shape. I actually broke my hand playing football in the
mhm.
park with a couple friends after the season was over. And so I was recovering from that, just I didn't have anything. And that didn't help, but it was really tight, indoors. If you've had any other indoor experience, which we don't still usually don't get a lot out here. Um, And then what a travesty. So here we are talking about me, and we're supposed to be talking about you. So you went to UCLA out of high school. What did you get at that state meet after you jumping 7 feet your senior year?
That I didn't do too well in high jump that meet. So my junior year, I jumped 7 feet for the first time. I think I got fifth place at state
Mm.
that year.
Tough
Didn't do,
year. Mm.
yeah, I didn't do too well there. No, I'm sorry. I think I got eighth my first state meet, and then came back the next year, jumped 7-1 going into the meet. I had really high hopes, but similar to yourself, there were some dogs at that meet. There was a same guys I butted heads through all through high school, or the same dudes I butted heads with all through college.
Right.
Really great athletes. I think there was a total of 5 7-foot jumpers at that state meet.
Wow. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
so
Yeah.
yeah, wow, it was a really deep field, really deep field.
So
And the guy who ended up winning went on to, I think he got second place at World Juniors that same year, broke the state record.
really, man, I'm so out of touch. Okay, so take me back in time. First of all, we're talking about just 5 years ago now, ish, 5 or 6.
This I think it's 7 now. This was back in 2017. No, sorry,
2017.
2016. 2016.
2016 was your senior year. There were five 7-footers in the field, including yourself.
Yeah,
And then who was the guy that ended up breaking the state record and going on to come in second at the World Juniors?
that was Darius Carbon.
Okay. And then where did he go to college?
He went to Georgia.
Georgia. Okay.
Yeah, he was Georgia, and now he's signed with Nike. He jumped
Okay.
230, I think.
230. Awesome. So
Yeah, he's a beast.
is he's still around? He's training for this trials?
I think everybody from that meet is still training, minus one person.
Okay.
Yeah, and ironically, 3 out of the 5 people at that meet, including myself, went to UCLA.
Really?
Yeah,
Man.
so we had some good.
Yeah,
Some,
yeah. So you jumped 7-1 in high school your senior year. You came in fifth at that state meet.
yeah, I came in fifth at that state meet, but I won the state meet in long jump that year.
Really?
Yeah, so
Congrats. That's
I came
awesome.
just finished high jump, or I started doing the long jump competition. I had to change my shoes, do high jump, and then after I got out, change my shoes, and then I was towards the end of the long jump competition, so let me do 2 jumps back to back.
Mhm.
And the first jump, I think I might have tied with the guy or barely beat him, and then the second jump, I put myself out there and walk away with the state title. That was
Wow.
an
Awesome. So
exciting
what
time.
was how far did you jump to win?
I jumped 775,
Which is
25.5 ish.
25.5. Yeah, I'm sorry. I still can't think in metric. I'm too old. It's like whenever somebody says metric, I'm like, okay, I know that would beat 7.74, but I don't know what either of those are. So
Yeah, I'm starting to become the opposite. I used to or I'm sorry, do the same. I used to beat my head when I heard metrics. Now when I hear feet, I'm like, all right, what is that in
yeah,
meters?
right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's weird because I don't know what it is about us as Americans, but when I was in high school, they never mentioned metric still. This is 1982. So when we were jumping at all our dual meets, they would just say it's 6'4", 6'6", blah, blah, blah. And I don't really know if they were bothering to measure in metric. I mean, you can get close, metric equivalents of those, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way, exactly. And I don't understand the rounding up and rounding down rules as far as that goes. When you say, oh, that's really, I know like 210 is 6'10 3/4. Okay. 215 is 7.5 feet. So you're like, so the first time you jumped 7 feet, you could have jumped 215 if they were doing metric and they didn't tell you. But 214 is what,
Yes.
7 feet and a quarter, right? And then 213 is pretty close. So you're like, what were they actually doing, right? And then at UCLA, they would just tell us 6'6" or 6'8", but it was really, 2 meters. It was probably 3/4 of an inch off. So
Yeah.
started to learn, oh yeah, that's really 6'6 3/4", and that's 6'8 3/4. And I know the starting at 220, it starts to get no at 2 meters. No, sorry. Yeah, 215 is 7.5 feet.
Yeah.
220 is 2.5. 225 is 4.5. 230 is 6.5. 235 is 8.5, and then 240 is 10.5. So for some reason, it stays steady all through there. It doesn't flip a quarter of an inch here or there, but then after that, it's a crapshoot. So if you just, there's a great story I know out here at the JC level. My coach, Baru Elias, he was training a guy named Dennis Lewis who jumped 7.8 1/4 somewhere. And the story that I heard at the time was that the great Dwight Stones told him when he asked what he should jump at, he said, put it up at 7.8 1/4, which would break Dwight Stones's American record at the time, which was 7.8. But so they put it up at 7.8 1/4, but there's no metric equivalent to 7.8 1/4. So it really was just 7.8. and so he made 7.8 1/4, but Dwight still had the record. That's the way I heard the story. I'm not sure if that's true. But so yeah, 3 guys on the team became Bruins. Now, are you still you've put yourself in an interesting class there. So you're state champ in the long jump, and then you're a high jumper, and you're still competing. Do you still do both?
Yeah, so that's the tough part. Yes and no. I am so I tried to do just long jump last year. I stepped away from high jump completely. I had a really great fall. I was in great shape, and then tore my hamstring to smithereens my
Oh,
first meet. Yeah, so that was really painful to come back from, but I did manage to come back, and just the confidence in long jump hasn't been the same since. So I
right.
switched to high jump. So that's what I'm doing this season, is just focusing on high jump. But my agent got me into a meet overseas in long jump. So we'll see how that goes.
That is so awesome. Yeah, well, the company that I'm mentioning obviously is Javon Harrison, who made it to the Olympics in 2021 in both the high jump and long jump, right? And made it to the finals in both, which hadn't been done since what? I remember seeing the thing since 1912 when the great Jim Thorpe made both, which has been quite a while. And yeah, he made the final and he didn't medal, even though he jumped really well. The last Olympics was pretty amazing. I remember the final results. You could have jumped 7.8 3/4, I think, and came in like Javon came in what, 7th or something crazy. There was a lot of guys, Brandon Stark and so many guys jumped really high and didn't even medal. So I remember 7.8 3/4 won it in 1984 at the games in LA. You were just a kid, or you might not have been born. Were you even born in 84? No. Man, yeah, I was that was my junior or sophomore year at UCLA. And so yeah, we're coming around what, 28, it's been 40, is that right? 16 and 28. It's been 40, it'll be 44 years since the Olympics were in LA the last time. Yeah. So that is so crazy. You're coming along at an awesome time. If you were a senior in 2016, so we're 8 years later. So you're what, 24, 25?
25, yeah.
You're 25. Okay. So yeah, I think everybody's prime lasts a lot longer. I remember I was still competing, but I always felt like there's always that push in the midst of all that, like to start a real life, get a job, get a real job, you know.
Yeah.
The question of how long am I going to compete? How long can I make this work? All that stuff. Um, you mentioned your agent. Tell us about that. I haven't had anybody really talking about, working with their agent and everything. How did you go about getting an agent, and what does that entail? That something that the listeners would be interested in.
Yeah, so getting an agent wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. You see all the movies, the football players have their agent flying them here and here, like paying for all their stuff and uh, telling them what to do, helping them get through situations. Maybe that's what it's really like for the football and basketball players, but in track and field, that is certainly not the case. So I was a little disappointed when I got my first agent. I was really fortunate that my coach hooked me up with a connection through them, a
Mm-hmm.
really good agency. I got my agent, and I was kind of expecting it to be like the movies, but yeah, it was very humbling to find out that it comes with no perks really.
Really?
The job is strictly to get me in meets, and that's about it. So the first year I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was coming off of 6 years of being a collegiate athlete where everything was planned out for me.
Right.
So idea of having to do now everything by myself, I don't think I was ready for that. I feel like there's people that have told me like that first year of being post collegiate is hard, but I've seen them go through it. So I was like, oh, you guys make it look easy. But experiencing it firsthand, it was like a roller coaster that was just not fully strapped in. You're just holding
Right.
on for life, going riding around the ups and the downs, and just holding on for dear life. So
Wow.
the first year with the agent, I was expecting a little bit more guidance from them, but it was really mostly them sitting around like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I was like, I don't know. You tell me what do you think I should do?" They're like, "Well, when
Yeah.
you figure out what you want to do, let me know, and I'll help you out." So the whole first year, I didn't really get into any big meets because there was just no clear communication between both sides. And then once I got hurt, that whole thing just went out the window, and my
Yeah.
season was over. And that was my very first meet as a post collegiate. So I was
Wow.
pretty fortunate. So after that, I switched training groups, and with that, I got a new agent. And this agent has been a lot more, I'm sorry, proactive.
Hmm.
So instead of me asking me what I want to do, they're more suggesting more things like, "Hey, these are the events that I think that you would be good to be in," and
Right.
then me with the makeshift meet schedule. And it was more of an approach like, "I want you to do these meets, but you have to hit these marks to get in." So so now I'm doing more low key meets to build my resume, get my world ranking up, so I can get into those bigger meets later in the
Right.
season.
Okay. Yeah, that is very it's involved, right? So you got to have someone who knows about the schedule, knows about meets. It sounds like the first guys didn't really have enough experience to really, guide you. And but yeah, you've got such a different world because you've got to get ready for even higher level meets than what you
Yeah.
did, in college. Now, jumping 7-3 at UCLA, did you go to when you were at UCLA, did you make it to NC2As or did you do that when you were at Miami or both?
Yeah, so it was a bumpy ride of my time at UCLA. Which leads me to why I came to Miami. So my freshman year, I had the best season of my career at the time, where I jumped 220 my freshman year, 7.2 and a half, and then I jumped 792, I think, which is a hair under 26 feet, like 26.11 and a half or something like that.
Right.
I'm sorry, 25.11 and a half. So I was doing really well there, and I missed nationals in long jump by half of an inch
Oh,
my freshman year, and then same. I think I missed it by 1 bar, or I'm sorry, I missed it by a miss in high jump. So it's just a tragic way to end such a successful freshman year. And
right.
then after that, my coach that was coaching me my freshman year left. He went to Miami, but I wanted to finish my degree at UCLA. So I stuck it out with the new coaching staff, and the training just wasn't the same. My body wasn't reacting to it as well. I Long jump, I don't think I even touched, like I barely touched 25, maybe one or two times the
Right.
next years, and it was pretty consistent around 7.1 ish for a high jump, but no big jumps while I was there.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to graduating after the COVID year, and then had some eligibility, went over to Miami, reunited with my coach for my freshman year, and then immediately was back to my prime, PR'd in all my events, and was very consistent at jumping high bars.
Right. Awesome. So let's talk about that because that's something for you listeners, younger listeners that are thinking about going to college and competing and everything. I remember at the time, I had nothing on the ball there. I was, my family, my mom was, she raised me as a single mom for a lot of time, and I always had a roof over my head. I always had food. I had spikes if I wanted them. I played football like yourself. And I had everything that I needed, but I didn't have anybody in the family. I don't think anybody in my family had even been to college. So when it came to, oh yeah, you should try to, do something in college, it was like, okay, so what do you do? It was like nobody even knew how to apply for college, so I wrote a letter to the coaches at UCLA and said, hey, I want to go to UCLA. I heard about you guys. You're pretty good. You guys are pretty cool. So I want to jump 7 feet, win the state meet and blah, blah, blah. And here's my application. And they were like, okay, great. Thanks for your interest. You applied late, so forget it. And it's like, oh, there's a date. I didn't even know there was a date you're supposed to apply by. Okay. So, they didn't even check back with me until CIF finals, which I managed to win, and I won the Masters meet, head up to state, blah, blah, blah. Well, where do all the coaches show up? State finals, right? That's what they're not usually going to much else that I remember. I mean, maybe they go to Arcadia now or something like that, but I don't remember a lot of people there. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you made it all the way to state. Yeah, we'll let you walk on, at UCLA. It wasn't like, I didn't have anybody saying, here's a full ride, here's this, here's that. I wouldn't have even known what that was. I learned later about that, but and so that was my experience of getting into the school, and then which in a lot of ways I think was pure luck. I mean, UCLA was the only school that I applied to. It was the only one that I even thought about going to.
Wow.
So I didn't have a backup plan at all. And so when that came through, I was like, oh, cool. I got into UCLA. That's where I wanted to go, and then I'm off. And when I got there, some of the names you'll recognize at the top of the all-time list, Lee Balkin and Dell Davis. Dell Davis had just jumped 7.25 at NC2A finals in 82. Literally in June, right as I was graduating high school, I remember reading the article in Sports Illustrated, and Lee Balkin, who you said something about the state record. He still, I think, has the state meet record at 7.75. I think he jumped 222 way back when. I was curious to see if that had changed because the last time I was up at, I think it's Clovis or wherever they have, where's the meet? Where's the state finals every year now? It's been for years. Clovis, right? So yeah, they have a little plaque. I remember walking up and seeing it sitting on the ground. Lee Balkin, 7.75. I'm like, hey, that's my old teammate at UCLA. He still has a state meet record. But I know the state record is higher, which you said was just broken by the guy you're talking about. What is the new state record? Just as a quick aside.
I believe it was 224. He jumped that though at the World Juniors.
So like that's 4.25, right? 7.425. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So what was my point? I got to UCLA. I had these great jumpers and everything, but I've told this story before here, but I shook the great Bob Larson, who was the head coach when they won their titles in 87, 88. He had John Smith, still one of the great sprint coaches in the world, was on staff, and that was where I think the bulk of our points came from, was that sprint crew, because we had guys that were, future Olympians on that team, from Steve Lewis and Kevin Young and Mike Marsh and Danny Everett. I mean, they could all run. We had the 100, the 200, the 400, the 4x1, the 4x4. They just cranked out points, and I've realized since then that the jumpers is kind of a specialist thing. Like I was one of the only guys. I had me, and I think Mike Powell was our long jumper, and the great Mike Powell, and a kid named Brandon Richards. We had an 18-foot pole vaulter, but we were kind of like those lame duck specialists. Like we didn't have multiple events. You did your one thing. Like you were versatile enough to have two. Nobody ever asked me to long jump because that wasn't a skill in my book. I remember starting with that event, but nowhere near fast enough. But the point of the matter was, when I got there, Bob Larson shakes my hand and goes, hey, I'm in charge of the high jump, because I don't know anything about the high jump. I mean, he told me that on day one, and I was like, you what? So here I am going to the great UCLA University. We've got these great high jumpers, right? And then I'm told that there's really no high jump coach, and that I'll be working out with Dell and Lee. I was like, okay, cool. They got to know more than I do. But the funny thing is other athletes in general aren't coaches, or aren't coaches yet. And so that was a different, twist on it. So, I didn't really have that architect, the guy calling shots. From setting up your training programs to, what should you be eating? How do you, what are you running? This and that. So everything that I learned was through them, through self-help, looking around, asking questions. I was a kinesiology major, so I learned a lot about movement and stuff like that. They no longer even have the major there, I don't think, unless they reinstated it. But, it was just kind of a wild ride, like you said, of like, there really was no mastermind. nobody in charge. And I just missed a bunch of those. Like when I got there, they had just had Jim Kiefer, who is now down south in Murrieta, but he was, coaching there for a long time. Used to make great jumpers out of all kinds of great athletes. He coached Doug Nordquist, great American high jumper, jumped 236, went to the games in 84, was still highly competitive, jumped 7, 8 3/4 when he was in his, later 20s, I think, or maybe early 30s on a reconstructed left cadaver knee, by the way. And so Kiefer was there. Of course, was he there when I got there? No. Story of my life again. Terrible timing. And then Tom Telez, who's a legend, coached at UCLA and left the fold and went to Houston and started his own program. And there he made Carl Lewis. He made, Leroy Burrell. He made all kinds of incredible athletes. He coached pole vaulters and sprinters and long jumpers and, on and on and on. So he left right before I got there. So, and I'm like, well, what the heck? So, and then you had your guy, like you said, your freshman year, who was great, and then went across the country on you. But you were fortunate enough to hook back up with him. So tell us about that relationship and your coach. Is he still coaching you now?
Yeah, he is. It's not the same relationship that we had before because I'm no longer in the collegiate system.
Right.
He can't give me the amount of attention and that we once were able to have, but he does do a lot of. So right now he writes my training program, and then I also work with another coach, so like balance it out. I kind of pick and choose between what I feel is best, and
Yeah.
he kind of just watches my practices, gives me pointers here and there, and I do most of my work on my own.
Right. Awesome. This can sound weird, and I should have set this up ahead of time. Do you have any videos that you can either send me? Because I was thinking if I can send it to my computer here, I can put it on the laptop, and in the Zoom we could watch that. And I've been thinking I want to upgrade my game on the podcast to include jump videos. Do you have any of those, Isaiah, we can look at?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, send something over. I'll share it on the big screen. I don't know if you could share it on your end in the Zoom, or you want to send it to me and I can do it.
Yeah, I don't think I have it on my laptop. Oh, you know what? Actually, I might. Let's see here.
This is something I got to remember to do now that I realize that since I'm in a Zoom call, I can share screen and do all kinds of fun things if I'm on the ball.
Is there any type of video that you're looking to see?
Yeah, just jump videos of you, man. And anything that's got you rocking and jumping well, either training or meets or whatever. I know it's difficult. It's got to be easier for you guys now. I literally have no videos of me ever jumping, high school or college. Nothing.
Wow.
It's crazy. All the videotapes and everything have been lost in the recesses of time. So if there are any out there on the internet, I can't find them.
I'm gonna share this one with you. This is a recent video that has become one of my favorites. Oh, do you mind adding me as a host?
Yeah. Where does that pop up? How do I do that?
Click on me as a participant,
Why is this bottom screen? Okay, I see right here.
and then you click on my name under more. You should be able to add as co-host.
Why is it not giving me here? I got copy link, invite. That's not it. Man, I'm such a dinosaur. I don't even know why this screen is down here at the bottom. It's totally messing up my game. I got the toolbar that's popping up and blocking stuff. Okay. I'm looking at participants. When I click on that, I don't see. Oh, there it is. I tried that already. Why didn't I do it now? Okay, mute more. Isaiah Moore. Chat. Make host. Change
Yeah,
host.
or you can put me as co-host. Yeah, there we go.
Either way, it'll work. As long as I'm still recording.
Let me share my screen real quick.
I'm hoping I'm still recording. We'll find out.
Yeah, the recording's in the top left corner.
Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, I see it. Here we go.
Okay, can you?
Can't see anything
All right,
yet. There we go. All right.
this is a most recent video. This was from a week ago. This is a 5-step at 214.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, what? Let me get. I've got you. You're a double armor, right? How tall are you, Isaiah?
I'm 6'3".
6'3", just like me. Okay. And you weigh how much?
Well, I'm cutting right now, but at the time of this video, I was 195.
Same. Man, I was 6'3" and a half, 195. Okay.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
first time I ever first time I ever jumped 7 feet in a meet in college was from a standing five, just like that.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a terrible time with my full approach. So I think I went 2 meters on my third attempt, and I missed twice at 205 from full. And I was just blasting right through my I just couldn't control it.
Yeah.
And that was one thing Dell and Lee had been doing with me, was trying to get me tighter, because I was 20 feet wide in high school. Can you believe that? My approach was 20 by 60. So I had a real wide, flat turn, and I just could pop. I always had jumps, but I didn't have much help at the curve. I might as well just been running down the bar parallel like you would as a long jumper. I don't know how I got up and over as far as rotation goes, but knowing what I know now, but I look back, they crunched me down to, like, I think even 14, which I still think is kind of wide, but it was a struggle for me for a while. So I would just, if I did run the curve, I didn't stay in it. I would kind of get swung out of it. But anyway, yeah, 5'20", what did I jump? 210, 215 for the first time. And then took good jumps at 220 from that standing five, that meet, which is kind of crazy. But so here you are doing that in practice. So can you back that up one more time and show the layout is what I'm interested in, because yours is kind of like Dontavius Hill's, because you're doing that side flip at the top, right? Boom, head back, and then you kind of, like, how does that, see that sideways flip, right? So has yours always been like that? Like, because it looks to me like you're throwing your head straight back. Like, I keep thinking it's got to be going straight back and a little bit to the left to get you to turn like that when you pull, or is it just how hard you're pulling? But that
I think at
side
the beginning
backflip,
of the jump, I was pulling pretty hard.
yeah, it's interesting because your finish is Dontavius Hill does exactly the same, like that sideways backflip. And you know who else you guys share that with, who's fantastic jumper, Olympic gold medalist, is Stephen Holm.
Yeah, I watch a lot of his videos.
He would turn sideways like that, right, as he's going over. And what's the other thing I wanted to see? This isn't my favorite angle. It's not bad, but I prefer being like 5 degrees off the bar to the front. Can you back it up to where you're at the peak of your knee drive as you're still on the ground? Yeah, so that knee is coming up hard. Do you guys ever work on trying to get it across you, or is that just kind of the way it goes?
I do. I didn't do a really good job of it in this video. Let me try to find. There's one video I do a really good job. Let me pull that up.
That's one of the things, for you viewers out there. I do a lot of video analysis for athletes, and one of the things that I've identified is the strength of all the great high jumpers. First of all, you got to have a good knee drive, right? um, but some can drive it straight up and not across, and they end up going over kind of sideways. Like, if you watch the great Sotomayor, he wasn't great at driving his knee across. He would just drive it up, and so he would, even at and when I say even at 8.5, 8 feet a half inch, 245, he was slightly under rotated if you watch him. And I want to say Charles Austin also, two of the best jumps I've ever seen, are slightly under rotated. Okay. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. You're at
How about
Miami. Nice. It's moving fast. Moving fast. Oh, look at that vertical. Nice. And see,
yeah,
there's
this
that knee drive angle. You can see that angle going back across, right? Like it's going to go across your hip. Yep. Up and across. Very nice. Hands are pretty high. Awesome.
I'm not sure how I got over that bar, but I'm glad I did.
And there's the back sideways flip. Man, you and Dontavius, I'm wondering if because it seems to me to get your body to turn, because I kept going the way that I was going, right? So if I'm looking down the bar to my right, same as you, we're coming from the same side, everything. So as I was looking down the bar and my head went back, I just kind of kept going that direction. I don't remember my legs once I pulled them over to go, reverse back across, but it does not look like you're looking. I thought you had to look to your kind of like a reverse corkscrew. You know what I mean? Like, because your knee twists you around, right? That's the first part. So I was like, once I start spinning back to the bar, then if I look back a slight bit to my right, it's so hard to tell. I like to finish hands on the hips there. Been working on that a lot just recently with my kids. Nice. Strong pull.
Yeah, I pulled really hard on that one.
That speed has got to be an asset too. When you were what kind of speed has been measured for you? You ever run any competitive sprints or any 40 times or anything like that for football?
Man, I wish I did. I did run a 60. Was it my junior year? Think it was my junior year. I ran 6'9",
Yeah.
six
I don't even
nine.
know. Is that fast? I'm sure it's fast, but like compared to,
I mean, it's not competitive, but I
yeah,
think I made the finals that meet, so it's not
right.
slow.
No, no, yeah, you can't be slow and be a long jumper. I don't think. I mean, you're not.
I
You
think
don't
so
have
either.
to necessarily be world class, but you've got to have some speed
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sure to jump close to 27 feet for one. Um, all right, awesome stuff. I love it, love it. So you had a kind of a blend of a lot of things that I've over these last few years as I've been coaching. I realized that what you're demonstrating here was pretty much what I did. Can you back it up to the start of your curve, the 5-step? Let's see. So I'm assuming 5-step curve from,
My fifth step.
yeah,
So my,
one,
I'm sorry, that was my fifth. So my six,
two, yeah.
7.
Yep. Big gather. Dude, look at the lean angle. That's awesome. Awesome. This is what I call the slide
Yeah.
step, the one where you're on that when your shank of your takeoff leg is, staying flat to the ground instead of continuing to cycle,
Mhm.
right? And were you a foot scraper?
Big time. Yeah, my shoes. I go through like 3 pairs of shoes a season.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I've recently changed my tune on that, but I used to tell people I go if you get away from scraping your shoe on the ground, you should be able to jump 2 or 3 inches higher just because you get better speed out of the drive knee.
Yeah.
Then I've seen do you know Fabian Delrid? Do you know who that is?
I don't think I'm
This
familiar.
Swedish guy. Yeah, he's like 6'9", huge guy. 6'9", he's jumped 233. He's jumped at least 7'7" and something. Yeah. So he sent me the video and you can see the dust trail, from the scrape of his leg.
Yeah.
And then I watched a guy from Texas Tech 2 years ago. I was at the Mount Sac meet watching SEALs jump from SC, right? Kid jumped seven
Oh,
six and a
yeah.
half,
He's one of the
right?
dudes that I competed against in high school.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
7 jumpers at that meet.
Yeah, he's really good. I watched him, and he gets that knee up high and tight, and all that, and no scrape. But then the kid from the kid, you guys are all kids to me. He's from Texas Tech, right? And he jumped 7'5" and a half that day, and he scraped his foot big time. And I remember telling for years, I was like, I don't think anybody's ever going to scrape their foot and jump higher than 7'4". And then I watched the guy do it right in front of me. And then I had this guy on my feed come through a couple days later, jump 7.7. And then someone told me along the line in a message somewhere and said, "Hey, did you know Charles Austin scraped his foot when he jumped 10.5?" And I'm like, "Really?" And I watched the video. I'm like, "Yep, there it is, foot scrape at 10.5." So I know it's a trade-off. Like I've seen, some really great jumpers. We're comparing your style in many ways to Stephen Holm. And Stephen Holmes cycles unbelievably well as he's running his whole curve. And so his drive knee, just as he puts his left foot on the ground, like you or I would, his right foot is already kicking him in the butt. It just flies up there because his cycling's so good. And then the knee just goes boom, like straight across. Like, I mean, we're talking about you and I here nudging that knee across. His whole leg goes across, like it's pointing in a 90-degree angle away from the bar. And you're like, holy crap. And then, of course, he jumped 7.11 and a quarter, or whatever, like 2:42, I think, and won the Olympics in 2000 or 2004. So,
I've been trying
it's
to
one
do
of the
that
things.
for
What
a
was
long
that?
time, scraping and get the heel to the butt. Is there any notes on that?
Uh, the only thing that I know is again, these are the things that I was taught, and I also have just expanded on it just by observation, right? Watching all these great jumpers. So it's the only thing I know about it is my coach Elias at UCLA, not at UCLA. He started working with me in my senior year. So I was looking for help because I jumped 2.5 as a sophomore, and then my junior year I had a down year. I only went 7.1. I did that the very first meet, and the rest of it kind of tailed off. So I was going into my senior year, and I'm like, I want to have a great senior year. And I found Baru, who was a junior college coach, but had coached 2.78 jumpers, the Dennis Lewis guy I had mentioned before, and also Brian Stanton. And Brian Stanton made the Olympic team in '88, went to Seoul, and he was actually not always a training partner of mine, but I trained with him enough times because Elias was working with both of us. It wasn't like we were synchronized in our schedules, but I did work with Brian, and he had the most beautiful high cycling style. If you can ever look up any of his stuff online, there's a couple jumps from they used to call it the TAC meet, the TAC, which is the Athletic Congress, which used to be like the nationals, US nationals for guys that were no longer in college, right? So there's a couple of jumps he came from the left side. Beautiful high cycling. Like he was 6'5", and he looked like he had to be like 225 because his legs were so big. I don't know if he had hollow bones, but he really only weighed like 170 pounds. But he had the biggest quads and calves I've ever seen on a guy that was his size. But he didn't have a huge upper body, but he wasn't wimpy either. He didn't look like Barshim, right? He wasn't like little twig arms. So I don't know how he could be that light at 6'5", but he ran beautifully. High cycle, like knees, right? Knees hip high. And then his feet would kick him in the butt all the way through. And no foot scrape, and right off the ground. So my contention is if you're high cycling through that takeoff, and it doesn't work for everybody. I got to tell you, I have trained certain athletes to try to do that, just kind of like, the new I changed the name of Sky High and Fly Jump Camps to Sky High and Fly Jump Labs because I always say we're kind of experimenting. We're like saying, hey, we're playing with angles and forces, and what do you do? So getting that foot to kick you in the butt is a trip because this Fabian Delrid, the kid I was telling you about, he's like he's 24 or something. He's pretty young. He was showing me his early jump stuff from Sweden, and he used to be a single arm. So when he
Really?
was single arming, get that lead arm up. I have not seen one. And again, I love saying this because I'll probably create one. And just by saying it out loud, I've never seen a single armor scrape their foot because if you think about it, they're just tall and fast, right? And they run right off the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
slowing down to get ready to take off doesn't even occur to a single armor. They're leaning and hauling it, right? And they just do, and they're off the ground. There's no gather, there's no slow down, lean back, none of that, right? So that's the thing that I've noticed is, for a double armor, you can get that wide range of foot scrapers or not, depending on the running style through. So if you watch your cycling from the top of the curve, if we could show that, that would be great. So see that outside leg? There's your right. It kicks you in the butt. And then here's your left. still pretty high cycles. The right, see right there, it's already starting to drag. So if you look at it right here, as your shank comes through, right, your shin, it's already just parallel to the ground. So if it's parallel to the ground, it can't be kicking you in the butt. So on your first step with your right foot on the curve, you actually cycled and you could see it, your foot get pretty close, your heels to your glutes, right? And then the same way they are out here on the straight, right? So you're running tall all the way through the straight. That's one of the other things I tell people. I go, it's really hard to cycle all the way through the curve because you're leaning so hard on, especially on your takeoff. Like, look at that lean back angle, dude. You're like, got to be 30 degrees there. It's tremendous.
Yeah, I got behind that one. I
Yeah.
dream of going off like that again.
Yeah. The lean back angle is everything here. If we could quantify that, you've got great horizontal references here, the far standard. If I broke that down on film, I'm betting it's at least 30. So that is what I call the catapult force, right? That lean hard to the left flips you up into the air almost, right? And I tell all my kids, I go that, it adds to your jumping ability, whatever it is that you have. And you're also leaning back, right? Can we back that up? Can you show me the last two steps? I'm curious to see if you go heel toe on your last two. So here's a little bit. Yep. See it? Heel toe. Most power jumpers are going to go heel toe because they're not running as fast. You know what I'm saying? In comparison to a single armor, because when single armor is just hauling the mail, and they don't always get that heel toe and get back because they're so busy running. It's hard to lean back and run. You know what I mean?
The speed
The
jumper,
whole
they're
yeah,
sprinting the bar.
yeah, the whole game of being a sprinter is pushing, and you got to be leaning forward to do that. I have trouble sometimes when you get a sprinter that comes to you and they've got some pop, so you're trying to teach them a high jump. I'm like, look, don't get forward, try to lean back a little bit. Heel toe is a lot like your last two in the long jump are heel toe, right?
Yeah, flat.
Yeah. So, that roll through there is really important because it's tilting you to the side and back. So you got a great reach back here too on that back inside arm. I
Yeah,
like
man,
that.
all the way back.
My contention there is that arm behind you helps pull you back. You know what I mean? Like helps you lean away from the bar. Because if both hands are forward, right, then part of your body mass is in front of you and they're going to pull you forward.
Yeah,
So if you can reach both arms back behind you, that's got to help that lean angle. I would cite you as a reference in the future for my point of view on that. See, look at that knee drive, dude. That knee drive angle is tremendous. Coming back across, right here. I always tell my guys, try to drive it up to that shoulder. It looks almost like you got that accomplished. And then, for Stephen Holm, the reason that his leg would look more across than yours is just that cycling up to the butt right before you did that. But
mine has a little bit further away.
yeah, that's amazing though. The other thing you've got in common, I think here, this is if you were to reach out when you're completely vertical right there, do you think you could still touch the plane of the bar with your inside arm? You go down to toe off, right? And you were to reach out. You think you're about arm's length away there?
I think my I think I might barely miss the plane. I'm
Yeah.
a little
A
than
little bit
arm's length.
outside maybe, but
Yeah.
that's the other thing Baru taught me that I never heard at any of the time that I was at UCLA. Dell Lee never talked about it at all. But he told me, he goes, hey, every time the bar goes up, and you got to channel now a little 5'4" Romanian guy. He's like, you, the dog, American, you come here, yo, jump, go there. And he's like, when the bar goes up, you must move back. So every time, the bar went up, he's like, you need to move back like 2 inches. You need more time to hit more vertical, right? So especially as your attack speed increases as the bar goes up and you're leaning more, right? So you're going to have possibly we're trying to create a little bit more ground contact time, right? Because you're going to get your leg more out in front of you and all that, but you still got to convert that speed and try to hit vertical, but just literally trying to go from say 7.2 to 7.4. Okay. If I go up 5 centimeters of height, my question to a jumper like yourself is where are we going to get those 2 inches? Are you going to get it by arching like crazy? Are you going to get a better layout than you've already gotten at this height? And we've seen you have a beautiful layout. So my contention is, how am I going to lay out any better than I just did? Right. You hear kids say that all the time, right? They go, "Hey, coach, I need you to help me with my form." And my brain always goes, "Which part?" And I know that they're talking about their layout. So
Yeah.
they're thinking I need to get even better than I am on top. And the ones that are asking me that, usually when I see them jump, they're fine. They have flexibility. They're in a nice position. Now, sometimes they're in that position a little too early, right? Because they're
Yeah.
throwing their head back early or whatever. But I
Instead of
go,
taking off their head
the
is
position that you're talking about is there's nothing wrong with it. You're entering into it a little too early. So I always say if you're going to get 2 more inches out of anything, unless they've got a terrible layout and they really are just sitting in the chair as they go over, most times I'm like, no, you're going to get your 2 inches out of more attack speed, better lean, right? And we're going to clean up your mechanics, whatever you're doing with your arms and your knee drive at takeoff. This across angle that you're demonstrating here, hands high overhead, dude. I love that. You got your arms up, right? So many guys I see they're here. They're getting their
yeah.
hands, you can see a little box around their head sometimes, or the box is down below their eyes. I'm like, no, no, no. If you're
Yeah.
going to jump, you got to jump. You got to drive your arms up and go grab the rim, or whatever it is. So you're demonstrating everything I love about American power jumping right here, that high knee drive up and across and those high hands getting you a ton of air, right? So then that's it. And as the bar goes up this year, when you get back to 7.3 and then you're jumping 7.5, just remember I told you when it goes from 3 to 5, you got to move back
Back a little bit.
2 more inches, just because it's going to take you longer to hit your peak height. And longer means both up and towards the bar, right? So if you're too close, I see it all the time. It's like a pet peeve. I broke down the 2021 Olympics a couple weeks ago, and I was watching Lequinko from Poland, this tall blonde gal, and she's coming through, and you can see her counting her steps. She's like, "Ah." And I'm like, I love that, right? She's in rhythm. And then you see her get to the bar and she goes like this. She's like, and you can see her, she's like contorting. She can barely squeeze her arms, up to the thing. And I'm like going, where the hell is she? I go, she must be right next to the bar, literally. And she took 2 jumps in a row like that. And I'm like, where's her coach? I'd be up there going, hey, LeQuinco, move back, at least a foot. Geez. So yeah, my pet peeve is too close to the bar at takeoff. I think it causes just an unbelievable amount of problems. Like if you took where you are here and moved you a foot closer, you wouldn't have had time, right? You
Yeah.
wouldn't
Oh,
have time
I
to
had no
finish
chance.
everything. You need
Yeah.
room.
Like even here, I'm like,
I think you're still too close here. Yeah, that's the reason I brought it up. A tiny
okay.
bit, like you said, you didn't know how you managed to squeak that one out.
Yeah.
Because you can see at the very top is you got, dude, great air. Love the
Man.
finish. You and Dontavius, man, and then Stephen Holm. I've got 3 that I play them through my head. I can see it all the time. If you watch when you break right through here, because you're looking for a bit, but when your head goes back, you're actually still going towards the plane of the bar, right?
Mhm.
And I've been telling guys, and then you continue around. So the top of your head, if you notice, once you get to the peak of your layout, is pointed straight down. So that's good because your nose is over here. If you were on a clock, right? I go nose at 9, toes over here at 3, ideally. I like to get head and feet on the same level, right? If you could. Your
Yeah.
hips are up here at 12, and the top of your head is pointed down at 6, right where the bun is, right? Straight
Yeah.
down. So you got all 4 corners of the clock covered. We're in a really close position here. What I like to see is if you can wait and you watch Barshim is my favorite, right? So he gets to where his head is past the plane of the bar. That's usually when he starts.
Yeah.
Or I mean, he may be on the plane of the bar this way. I've been training my athletes to look at the pit line or the bar itself as a horizontal reference so that your head is going down. When you pop your head down towards the ground, your hips come up, right? And then you get in that position. You can see behind me on the raised bar banner, right? So you're like that. If your head and feet are on the same level, then if you watch in 2016 when you were a senior in high school when they did the Olympics, Derek Druin, Barshim, and Bondarenko, all 3 of them almost land on their hands and feet like cats when they
Yep.
jump because the rotation is so good. And they
Yeah.
also wait like crazy. I don't think I've ever seen Druin was unbelievable in that Olympics. I don't think he missed until it was over.
Yeah, he was
But
perfect all the way through.
he was rotating like nobody's business. And if you look, both he and Bondarenko aren't really that flexible. If you watch them, they're not really cranking their heads back, popping their hips up because they're single armors. That's my contention. Single armors just kind of flow through it, right? But they both connect that lead arm and they reach for their heel, right?
Yeah.
And they're both really tall. I mean, Druin was 6'5" and Bondarenko's 6'8". So when you're all stretched out like you are at takeoff, you got a long body, you got to get short quick, right? You got to get your hands down. You got to roll your feet back up. You got to, try to do this reverse pretzel thing that I was terrible at because I had no flexibility. But, you try to get into a smaller ball as you can so you can spin, right? Do it quickly. Oh, yeah, dude, you got a lot of great stuff going on here.
Thanks, man.
When you're lifting for our viewers out there and listeners here on our podcast, what kind of explosive lifting are you doing, Isaiah, when you're in the weight room?
Yeah, I mean, my weights have changed this past year, but previously I started off doing like the traditional weightlifting to start off to develop a base of strength, like
Mm-hmm.
heavy squats, deadlifts, power cleans, all that. And then
Yep.
as the season goes through, I go into more explosive based, like lighter power cleans, hang cleans, and
Not quite as deep, right? You're not going full
yeah,
squats. You're going halves and then quarters.
quarter squats
Yeah.
and single leg box step ups, explosive, like heavy weight, but really fast.
Yeah.
Moving that and like landmine, push presses, things like that. Like really quick,
Right.
fast movements,
Yeah.
coupling the heavier lifts with explosive movements. So say
Right.
like a quarter squat and then head over to a box to do like quick box jumps
Right.
or some kind of explosive move, like
Did you do
broad jump.
any jump squats with weights where you actually leave the ground with the weight on your back?
I started doing that this year with the hex bar deadlift. So I do a
Awesome.
deadlift, come up, jump squat, and then drop.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen Bondarenko does those like I'd call them switch lunges, like with his
Mm.
feet going forward and back really quick. I like
Oh,
those. And I like the like you said, just traditional two-legged. And then one of the changes I've been making recently is to swing towards a lot more single leg work. So, that like you're talking about boxes, step ups, and then one-legged squats and even one-legged deadlifts and one-legged, just isolate, a little bit more just because I like the balancing aspect and the fact that you have to balance and do the power at the same time, right? And you can still do the same progressions.
yeah. I'm sorry to cut our session short, but unfortunately, I have to head out of here.
Hey, well, hey, I appreciate all the time you gave us, Isaiah. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing your video. It's eye-opening, and I'm a big fan. So keep me in
Oh,
the loop, please. Send me anything that you're doing. I will promote you shamelessly and happily as you're a former Bruin. And
great.
anything I can do to help you in any way with anything, I'd be honored.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and
All
thank you
right.
for the opportunity to share a little bit of my story.
Hey, really appreciate you having you on, Isaiah. Good luck, buddy. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks, man. Have a good one.
You bet. You too. And that is going to wrap it up for us. We were talking with Isaiah Holmes, the high jumper, long jumper, who started his career at UCLA, my alma mater, and then moved to Miami to follow his coach after he graduated from UCLA. But he still had some eligibility due to COVID and all those weird things that were going on in the COVID era. And he's now training for the Olympic trials. He gave 1 year to the long jump, and then he said he shredded his hamstring last year when he did that. So he's back spending more of his time on the high jump. Career best 7'3", 202 meters 21, and his career best in the long jump is 8.03 meters, which is 26.4. Just an amazing, nice young man. He's was very gracious and let us pick apart his jump technique video, which you may or may not know is a passion of mine. I love love analyzing video. So especially an accomplished jumper, when you see very highly skilled techniques, knee drive, arm drive, lean angles and things like that, which just fascinate me. It might be boring to some, but for those of you like me, you can see some of the first videos that we have put out here on Raise the Bar. I finally realized that I can share screen with you and kind of present a little bit higher tech what we're doing here. So thanks again to Isaiah and the time that he gave us. He had something that came up. Hopefully we can get him on again and find out more about what's going on with his training as a young professional with an agent and going to these big meets and everything. And then this being an Olympic trial year and everything, we didn't really even get into that stuff yet. So we'll have to see if we can do that. And until next time, this is Troy Haines of Raise the Bar and Sky High and Fly Jump Labs saying so long. Looking forward to talking with you again very soon.